What is up, YouTube? HPJ here, and I'm coming at you guys because it's time to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! The Eternal Duelist Soul. That's right, I told you guys I was going to do videos on some of the games that were coming out from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Early Days collection, which has its official release date of February 25th of 2025 for both Nintendo Switch and Steam. If you have not already put down your pre-order, I would highly do it, but let's be real, unless they show some spectacular things that are really coming in the Early Days collection, ladies and gentlemen, it's basically just the Yu-Gi-Oh! Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance games. We already have a handful of them that have already been released, and I mean, let's be real, most of us are already emulating them, because I have. So, the main purpose of this video is that I'm going to be giving you guys my full opinions and thoughts on each of the video games that I've played, talk about my experience with those games, what comes in these games, and overall what I'm expecting to see in the Early Days collection in regards to things. Now, we have to start off with the information about this game. So this is Yu-Gi-Oh! The Eternal Duelist Soul, as it's known here internationally. If you're playing this in Japan, this is Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters Expert 5. 1, if I'm not mistaken, because I always get this wrong. Don't judge me. So, so it's Duel Monsters 5 Expert 1. And the reason why it's called Duel Monsters 5 Expert 1 is because the second game in the series that came after this is chronologically known as Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters 5 Expert 2. And the reason why it's known as... Oh, no, it's not known as that. I'm sorry. Is there a second one? What was the second one? Because I don't remember the second one. Oh, no, it's the same game. It's just what it was called in Japan. Okay, so yeah, Duel Monsters 6 Expert 2 is the sequel to this game's original version. And then the sequel to this one is, of course, Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship. Yu-Gi-Oh! The Stairway to the Destined Duels, Yu-Gi-Oh! Worldwide Edition. Now, what is the whole trip about this? It's basically how they introduced the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game's official mechanics to the TCG and OCG. Because for a good period of time, if you have not watched the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime, there were a lot of different rules that what we were experiencing in the actual card game. And because of translations and stuff like that back then, it was very hard to know this is how the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game was initially supposed to work. So up until the time these video games were released, as well as the structure decks that came out months prior to that, we didn't really know how to play the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. It's kind of like Pokemon. None of us really play Pokemon. We just collected the cards, showed off the shinies, and traded for them. I mean, am I wrong? Because it's true. So Yu-Gi-Oh! Eternal Duelist Soul was released here in the TCG October 16th of 2003. While in Japan, it's of course the Japanese version of this was released July 5th of 2001. So literally when the game officially became Yu-Gi-Oh! And it wasn't Yu-Gi-Oh! With all the crazy shenanigans. Because Yu-Gi-Oh! The trading card game, which was known as Duel Monsters, was in the series for Series 0, which we never got a dub of because it got real dark. But here in the TCG, we did get it. We did get, the Duel Monsters series going forward from our first episode where it's Kaiba versus Yugi, all the way until the end of the original Duel Monsters series where it's a Tim versus Yugi and they're dueling it out to basically help his spirit move on. So there's a lot to unpack there. I know. Trust me, if you ever watch the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, there's always a lot to unpack because there's so much lore in it. Now, for this video game itself, in its Japanese version, Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters 5 Expert 1, there's a lot to talk about in terms of these games. Because these games all have basically the same thing. Just that they have different backgrounds, they have different music, they have different layouts. I honestly have to say, the Japanese version of Yu-Gi-Oh! The Eternal Duelist Soul isn't that bad till you actually start dueling, in which the music is different, the play mechanics are completely different, because every time you played a card, it literally stopped you to read the card. And then, on top of that, the phases and the button controls were completely different. If it had the same button controls as the Eternal Duelist Soul did for its English release, I would be fine. But unfortunately, the Japanese version doesn't. And how did I play the Japanese version? Duh, I emulated it. And then I got to play, because I do have my original copy. I do have my original copy. What you guys saw when I streamed, because you can see the VOD of me streaming Yu-Gi-Oh! Eternal Duelist Soul on my VOD channel when I streamed on Twitch. That I did play it off of an emulator, but it was basically still the same game. It was basically, here's 3 decks, you choose one of them, then you go out there and you start dueling. That's literally what they got you into. And there wasn't really much tutorials like there were in the Japanese version, because the Japanese version was like, hey, I'm such and such, you'll see me later, which the TCG's version did. But then they did something different in the Japanese version, which I loved, which was they told you, hey, we have these 3 different decks. Each of them have a certain amount of cards in them, but they're all different in terms of builds. There's going to be a lot of duelists ahead, so learn, read your cards, prep accordingly. We'll see you later. And that's literally the text that you get from Taya, because Taya is the first one to introduce you into the game. It's not Yugi, which I think the Japanese version of that is different from the TCG version. Or I think no, I think the English version did have Taya. It did. It started off with Taya introducing you to the game, because your first 5 duelists are Taya, Yugi, Tristan, and Bakura. So those are your first 5. And those are the ones that you start off with. Then you go to tier 2, which is Mai, Rex Raptor, Weevil Underwood, Mako Tsunami, Esperoba. Then from there, you go into the rare hunters. So you have, with the exception of Odeon, who is not in the game, you have Loomis and Umbra, who are 1 duelist. Rare Hunter, or Seeker as he's known in some games. That's the one with the Exodia pieces. Then Arcana. Then it's Merrick and Strings, who are your opponents for the Rare Hunters. Then the next page over is Shadi, the Keeper of the Millennium Key in the Millennium Scale. Of course, Mr. Millionaires himself, Seto Kaiba. Ishizu Ishtar, who makes her second appearance in the game, because prior to that, I think Ishizu's in the later Dark Duel Stories games, because it finally introduced her in the manga. And then from there was Yami Yugi himself, playing, of course, Yami Yugi's deck. Well, not a more so of a modified version of it to fit the card game itself on release. Then the final tier is Kaiba's dual computer. Solomon Moto, whose name is Truesdale and not Solomon Moto. Then Simon, which is a Tim's advisor in the royal advisor for the series. It's a very weird, misplaced character, but if you read a lot of things in the series, you understand who this man is. And then we have Maximilian Pegasus, our first antagonist in the Duel Monsters series. So, with all of those characters wrapped into one, that's how they fit the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters series. And to progress through each tier, what you would have to do is beat the first tier, which shows up. And I think it's 2 to 3 times for each opponent. Move on, do the same thing. 5 duels against the Rare Hunters, 5 duels against Tier 4, and then Tier 5 will be open. But in order to open all of the Tier 5 duelists, which is bananas, you'll have Dual Computer already open. Solomon will be there, but you have to either have over 816 cards already in your trunk, and he'll appear as an opponent, or you'll have to defeat him during Grandpa Tournament, which is scheduled in June, based on that calendar in the game, and then beat each opponent, and then you'll be able to duel him as a reward for completing it, and then you get a whole bunch of cards as well. Then there's Maximilian Pegasus, who you can only obtain once you have 2 world in your trunk. Now the thing is, you can put codes for the cards in there, so you can easily get to a world, and then he'll appear once you get to that tier. But other than that, you'll have to pull Toon World. And specifically just Toon World. You don't need the Toon Monsters and stuff like World Championship 2004. Don't worry, I'll do a video on that too. Um, there's also, of course, the other things in this game that it offers. It offers deck construction, where you can build your deck based off the cards that you have in the game. You have the campaign, which, like I said, you had all these opponents you can play against from the series. You had, what was it? Oh, you had the trade and duel area, where you can trade cards to your friends, or you can duel them in their respective decks. Then there is the password system, which you can enter the 10-digit password on the bottom left corner of your Yu-Gi-Oh card. So those numbers that you always see, but you never know what they're actually for. Yeah, those are what they were for. To put them into the database of your game, and then be able to scan them, and then the card will be read. Then once you did that, you obtain the card. Thing about the password system that I should let you know, especially for those who are going to be playing this game once it comes out. You can only enter one card per file. Yeah. So if you say, for instance, you enter the code on the bottom of Mystical Say Siphon, you get that one Mystical Say Siphon. That's it. You cannot enter the code again and get a second or a third Mystical Say Siphon, because they limited you on how many cards you would have. I think this stopped after we got to the DS era, because you were only restricted at that point based on game progression. And even then, I know Nightmare Troubadour, which was the first DS game, told you no, you could not enter the card numbers until after you beat the plot of the story of the game itself, which was stupid. I know. Especially coming off of the fact that the GBA games were out, and Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship 2006 allows you to enter the code multiple times to get the card multiple times. Then from there, there's a lot of the different abilities and stuff of the cards were changed or had some errors to them, like Gravekeeper's Grave Robber, not Gravekeeper Servant, Grave Robber. Did not allow you to allows you to play the spell that you got, but you have to set it so that you would avoid the 2,000 points of damage. There were some issues with Graceful Dice and Skull Dice. Imperial Order also had some weird stuff to it as well. A lot of this was fixed in the later games, so you don't have too many of those issues. But it was ways that you could play around certain obstacles or play around certain things. Witch and Sangan had glitches in them. If you were to use Witch of Black Forest or Sangan, and you were using a card like Premature Burial or Call of the Haunted, there was a glitch in Witch that you were able to search twice off of your Witch or Sangan. Something your opponent could also exploit as well. Then there were a lot of the cards in the game that at the time were not released, so you cannot properly play them. I'm talking about all three of the Egyptian gods, Ra, Cypher, and Obelisk, who made their appearance in the game, which is not bad. But they would have the text on that cannot be played in your deck, cannot be used in your deck if I'm not mistaken. Because they didn't have proper abilities or text at that time, and a lot of things overall just were not playable because of how the games themselves were structured. So shout outs to Konami for putting the Egyptian gods in there and then making them playable as fuck. Then Trial to the Kingdom. Sail to the Kingdom, which was the card that was used in the anime and manga, where Yugi received from Pegasus to tell him that if he wanted to duel for his grandfather Soul, come to Duelist Kingdom, participate in the Duelist Kingdom event, and then win your chance to duel me there. Then from there was Glory of the King's Hand, which is the prize money that you receive. Joey received it because, of course, he lost to Yugi, but he was the second finalist, so that was his prize for playing the game. Then from there, I don't think there was any other cards. Oh, Dark Magician Girl. If you had Dark Magician Girl, she did not have a code at the right-hand corner of her card. For whatever reason, programming did not... Like, you had to just get Dark Magician Girl legitimately through the game. So you couldn't get Dark Magician Girl through means of the code on the bottom of her card. Because I don't even think to this day Dark Magician Girl has a code on the bottom of her card. And if she does, it's not usable in the older games because they did not have Dark Magician Girl out at the time until Magician's Force. So yeah, ain't that crazy? Outside of all the information that I told you, the only things that you need to know is that there was dual music in the game, in the Japanese version. So all the stuff that didn't have music in the American version, in Turn Duel Soul, the Duel Monsters Expert 5, uh, Duel Monsters 5 Expert 1 had music in it. It had music in the select your opponent screen. It had music in your deck creation. You're entering the code for the cards and all of that. Now, now that I've gotten out that way and we've already been 15 minutes through the video, what was my personal experience with this game? So this game I have the most hours in out of any Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game next to Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship 2008. This is by far one of my favorites, but it's not my favorite GBA Yu-Gi-Oh! World Champion Yu-Gi-Oh! Video game. I will have a video on that one soon. I experienced this game, and even according to my original copy, which I still have, but it doesn't have the artwork on it. You know, the little sticker for it, the stick to identify the game. Yeah, that's gone. I just have a nice white line on it, because I think of a bend or some bit of distraction on it. But it is what it is, type of situation. So it's there. I thought it was really, just a this there situation um, with the cartridges, but no, it's overall was a pretty standard game. It had a lot of the standard mechanics. It taught you how to play Yu-Gi-Oh, which is how I ended up playing. It didn't have a banned section, but it had a limit restriction on it. And to be very fair and to be very honest, it was how a lot of us who did not have a lot of friends who were playing Yu-Gi-Oh played Yu-Gi-Oh. It was still the big experience. I remember playing through it like crazy. I remember getting a lot of cards, being very excited about who I dueled, getting certain duelists, dealing with certain duelists, because if you see in my VOD channel, for Yu-Gi-Oh! Eternal Duelist Soul, yeah, I still had a lot of trouble, even with a lot of duelists at that point. The cards in their overwhelming amount of playability wasn't a bad thing, because a lot of them were really, really good. And a good portion of things that did come out of it was playing certain duelists allows you to see what cards were in the series up until that point. I personally did enjoy, if anything, just the overall play style of playing the Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship game. I mean, Eternal Duelist Soul. I keep saying World Championship, it's an actual World Championship game. No, that didn't come to 2004. And I think, honestly, for the most part, I just enjoyed what Yu-Gi-Oh! Was. It was honestly, and still, one of the biggest enjoyments of what it was. And it was probably still one of my biggest enjoyments of the game. I loved the characters. I loved playing a lot of the duels that were offered. Hell, I did build my Winged Beast Harpie deck in that game as well. Yeah, it was a lot. It was a really decent game. Now, if for those who are going to be playing it once you get to the game, once it comes out on the early days collection, I'm just going to tell you this now. You're going to be grinding like crazy. You're not going to be getting your Gemini Elves early. You're not going to be getting your Force Raiders. You're not going to be getting your Genzos and stuff. No. You're going to have to wait for a lot of those. Now, you can enter those codes into the game, but you're only going to get one. And once you do that, that's it. There you go. Fingers crossed. You play a lot of the other duelists and you open packs from beating them and you get a lot of the other cards. Other than that, it's just a pretty standard series and it's a pretty standard game. So you're going to pretty much experience older Yu-Gi-Oh! At its core. And at one of its biggest. Hold on for just 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. I had to fix some things. But yeah, this is basically where you're going to be doing a lot of grinding. You're going to be experiencing Yu-Gi-Oh! At its premier base status. Also to note that this game's whole lineup of cards goes from the OCG versions. So there is Metal Raiders and stuff like that, but it's not the Metal Raiders we have in the TCG or Metal Raider or was it? Blue, what is it? Yeah, Legend of the Blue Eyes we had. No, these are all going from Booster Pack 1 all the way till, the games that started off the TCG and then some. Because I think the last official one that it states here is Curse of the Anubis. So that is a TCG set, OCG only set that included cards for the OCG. They start off with booster packs, volumes 1, 2, um, 3, 4. Then there's the Magic Ruler, Pharaonic Guardian Japan, and Dark Ceremony Edition, Premium Pack 3, and then Curse of Anubis. So everything from that lineup of cards is what's going to be in the set. And then they have like their own variety packs and special packs that you can open too. That are, here's cards from boosters 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Here's some cards that are from the special set that the OCG got but we didn't. Here's all the stuff from this particular set that's TCG that was OCG first. So, Magic Ruler, Pharaoh's Servant, and then Curse of Anubis and stuff like that. So if you're looking for Labyrinth of Nightmare and stuff, that's actually in Worldwide Edition. In addition to that, my personal thoughts overall in the game. Like I said, I loved it. I enjoyed it. I really don't have too many issues with it. I experienced the game like anybody else did. So who wouldn't? So, and it's a cycle of stuff that if people were, looking at the video game itself, hey, good luck. It's racist. People loved it. Sorry I'm chewing, because, that's what I wanted. Also, I'm kind of hungry, so, yeah, but if you're playing it, if you're reading it, then go for it. It is an amazing video game overall. I'm sure many of you will love it and get to experience the other variants of Yu-Gi-Oh! Itself. So, with that in total, I'm going to end up this video here because while I chew on these Mumbas, I'm sure it's going to get people's ears, but I really don't care because I'm hungry, so it is what it is. Now, I'll have some other videos up to talk about the other Yu-Gi-Oh! Video games for the GBA. Because I can do video for, of course, Worldwide Edition, 2004, 2005, 2006. But we don't know what other games, what the full lineup of the video games are going to be. We only know what Konami has already issued out currently. But I will take a chance, of course, to look at those once I get the chance. And then I guess someone will talk about Dark Duel Stories, because the only one I played was the one that came to the TCG, and that was apparently 3. So take that for what you will. Alright, with that in total and with things said, thank you guys so much for watching, because I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, because of course it helps out the channel tremendously. Hit the notification bell to be informed of when I upload more content to the channel. Socials will be in the description box below if you guys would like to check me out on social media. And of course, you guys can also check my previous videos and content, which will be following this. Other than that, that is pretty much it for right now. And I will definitely catch you guys as soon as I can. So, with that said and done, thanks everyone for watching. HPJ, signing out. Take care.